Hi, I'm Pat Lamb, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate. Enjoy.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with three friends who love the club, the game and all things Bears. This week, in a slightly later than advertised episode, we relive Sunday's final European Cup group game when Ashton Gate welcomed reigning champions Bordeaux Begler. Despite the dodgy weather, it certainly didn't disappoint as a proper contest. And even though we gifted 3 tries to the fastest rugby player on earth, we were still only 5 points behind with 2 minutes to go. There was much to be proud about, but also a little bit of what might have been. In typical rugby union fashion, the absurdity of the competition means that having won 3 games, including one at altitude halfway around the world, we were rewarded with an away trip to probably the best pound-for-pound club team in the world, Toulouse. And Quins, who we demolished at Twickenham before Christmas, get a home game. Madness. Anyway, the challenges don't stop though, as the Prem returns for 1 game only, and it's a trip down the M5 to Chiefs, who are currently on fire and no doubt hungry to avenge the defeat at Ashton Gate earlier in the season. We look forward to that and discuss how we could squeeze one more cheeky win before the long Six Nations break. I'm Pete, and I'm joined by Miles and Lee for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter. Well, boys, the Bristol Beer Factory profits have gone up recently because we haven't been recording there at all. So we're on Zoom again, and this is for logistical reasons. We have such busy lives. We were intending to try and do it Sunday, but various other things came up, and then we couldn't do it last night, but we've managed to convene ourselves just about. So this is Tuesday night. Still, I don't know about you boys, but I'm still got that kind of glow of excitement of the game on Sunday. And it wasn't just the game, it was all the aftermath and all of the singing and all the stuff that was going on. But as I said in the intro, Lee, it was actually, in hindsight, now I started thinking about it, it was really close. We could have potentially done the business on Bordeaux. What's your feelings of it now that you've had a couple of days to think about it?
Well, I think ironically, Pete, I mean, you say we've got to lose in the next round. I think that game was ours to lose.
Hey!
It was frantic. It was chaotic at times. It was error strewn even.
Not by them. By us. Yeah.
I don't know. They. I mean, to be fair, they did a job on us, didn't they? And to be honest, it was everything that we talked about before the game. Is like, these are the teams that we want to be seeing in BS3 at Ashton Gate in our own backyard. And I mean, it really didn't disappoint, did it?
No, absolutely. And I think we talked about this almost at half time, didn't we? When we'd gone a few, we scored early, which I think, woke them up a little bit. Gabriel Ogre scoring again. Was it 18-1 you had on him scoring firstly?
18-1, yes,
so
sir.
The new cash machine. And then of course they scored a couple of tries that were very much felt like it was gifted. And we said at half time, it's like we felt as though Bordeaux hadn't really done that much apart from the basics, which was tackle hard, get up quickly, get a defensive line set up, challenge hard in the wings and kind of disrupt the line out. That was probably the one thing that was a tiny bit disappointing on Sunday, was that they were good at disrupting the line out. But kind of half time, I don't know how you felt. I just felt a little bit like we'd been mugged a little bit. And the question was it because we were making mistakes, or was it because Bordeaux were forcing those mistakes?
I think a bit of both. Like you boys said, aren't we lucky to have the sort of European champions in our back garden, really, down at BS3? I think, Pete, you said they looked pretty miserable coming off the coach in a very wet Ashton Gate, but that didn't really last long, did it? Because it was soon the case. I think that the boys were sort of dropping the ball, making errors. In fact, and they were just capitalising on their errors from the first half, begrudgingly, we gave away the ball, coughed up the ball through mistakes, and it was just, a niggly first half. But I think we still thought, didn't we, at half time, that it's a winnable game. These guys haven't run away from it. European champions, but we're hot on their tails, and it's there to get the win. But lo and behold, yeah, it didn't quite, did it?
No, Lee, what are you going to say?
I just wanted to say, actually, I mean, all this season, I think we've been really kind of like together as a team. And I'm not going to dig any particular players out, but it kind of felt like the forwards were still playing their usual game, but we weren't quite so effective in the backs, and we made more mistakes in the backs than I think we've seen all season, and I think that contributed to just to the fact that, I mean, like you say, it could have been. It was obviously Bordeaux enforcing a lot of these errors, and they were so quick. And I mean, blimey, they were a huge side, weren't they? But it just felt like, I don't know, we dropped the ball in the backs a bit, and it just kind of, it felt we lost a bit of momentum at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I it goes back to what I said before. But I think we did say that it's like we are playing the European champions. These are a proper rugby team, and there was potentially a reason why we were dropping the ball. Obviously, it was an error, but it was like we were being forced into doing stuff. I think we panicked a little bit at times, and they were up on us so quick that maybe in hindsight, some of the players in the first half, when they look at the video, will think, maybe we should have just taken that into contact. We should have just slowed it down, maybe kicked to the corner, maybe just to kind of, we're almost, it was brilliant to see that we were taking the game to Bordeaux, because that's what we wanted. We didn't want to get drawn into a kind of arm wrestle, so we would go in for it. And I think, on another day, those we might have broken through, and I think also against other opposition we may not have been punished quite as much, because in those first two mistakes were on Biel Barry's wing, and poor old Noah Heward or whatever had to turn. He's like turning against a guy that is incredibly fast. So it was almost like there was a bit of bad luck, maybe a little bit of bad decision making, but it was all coming from a kind of positive attitude that we aren't going to cower in front of these guys. We're there on our patch. We're going to play our game of rugby. And when you look at a lot of the stats, we won the possession, we won the territory, we had more line breaks, we had more meters, but interestingly, they kicked a lot more. And I think Matthew Jalibert, we also have to doff our chapeau for him, because I thought he, for somebody that is seen as a bit of a maverick at times and maybe a bit of a flair player, I thought he controlled their game incredibly well and probably played the conditions better than anybody on the pitch.
I think so. I mean, it was surprising they come from I'm not saying a warm and sunny sort of south of France, but certainly a bit warmer weather. But yeah, it was just disappointing for fans, and I'm sure the boys, they played a great game, and it's just a bit of bad luck on the day, But that type of defensive set that Bordeaux set up, you could say that we saw that with Sale not too many weeks ago, who were even tighter. However, we got over Sale, we changed our game plan, and the likes of Bordeaux had that level of player that was just 2, 3, 4 steps above the skill that the Sale levels had, and we just couldn't get around them. You're right, Jalibert, on the day, he was the best number 10 on the pitch, and annoyingly ran right through the middle and scored a great try, didn't he, or offloaded. But his kicks, his foresight to kick, and his up and unders were absolutely spot on, and they just played to the conditions. And it was a little disappointing, but that potentially was one of the most disappointing games we've seen the boys play in, I can't remember how long, because we've been seeing them play phenomenal rugby game after game after game. And, to come up against the European champions, flipping tried their hardest and they came up against a brick wall. So there is no shame. And I'm flipping proud in the way we took it to them.
I mean, I wanted to kind of quantify that as well, is the fact that Bordeaux were probably, a lot of people said Bordeaux didn't really play very well, but what they did was so effective, and there was none of the Leinster shenanigans, all the dirty foul play and stuff. They just executed their game plan perfectly. And one thing I would agree with as well is that I think we would learn from that game massively, and it just shows it. how far we've come as a team to be disappointed to be that close, like you say, with 2 minutes to go, with 5 points down. How far we've come against the European champions, who, in my opinion, I mean, they're going to be close again to winning it this season. If we don't knock them out in the next round, obviously, after Toulouse, after we've smashed Toulouse.
I mean, this is the irony of it all, isn't it? Like, this is the weirdness of the whole competition, is that if we do beat Toulouse, which is possible, we then might end up playing Bordeaux. Although I must say, if we had won the group, that would have meant we would have had a home game against Leicester Tigers. And can you imagine like losing that? And actually, in a way, at least we've got a glory game. What happens with Toulouse? It is a glory game, and there'll be a lot of fans out there sort of working out how they can get out there for Easter weekend. And I've even had Quins fans on our socials telling us that we need to go to Toulouse. It's like the best away game experience, and I'm kind of pleased that we didn't win, because I'm not sure Tigers at home would have been that exciting. It's a bit like Bath fans are a little bit disappointed that they've got Saracens at home in their round of 16. Yeah. We haven't had any game like this for the last 3 years, have we? So,
no.
And you know what? I'm not sure Toulouse are going to be that excited, because they are a little fallible. I know they're going to be at home, but they got humped by Saracens at their place, and they were losing. They were 28-0 up against Glasgow at their place, and then lost. So they have got weaknesses, and they will look at us and look at the way we played against Bordeaux, and they will think that we matched the likes of Fitzharding, Joe Batley, Pedro, Santi, Klosk, Genji. That's the pack we've got going to Toulouse. They're not going to fancy it that much. They know they're going to be in a competition. And when you're we always say, if the pack can have at least parity or close to parity, then, anything can happen. And by the way, boys, that video that we posted, or Miles did, of us singing? Yeah. It's got nearly 25,000 views. It's
really?
gone viral in the southwest of France. We're like, it is unbelievable.
We're famous. Outside of PS3.
Like when you look at all the likes, it's like all these random French blokes that liked it. It's brilliant. It was so good.
We should apologise for spelling their own time wrong.
We're apologising, aren't we?
Well, I didn't want to dig anyone out at the three of us, because I know everyone will be thinking it was the Withywood boy spelling it wrong.
It was Miles got a rush of blood to his finger, didn't he?
Exactly. And, I think of the excitement of that video. I couldn't contain myself, and I typed too quickly.
I mean, imagine, Miles, if you'd actually spelt Bordeaux right, we'd have like 50,000 views. Yeah, and if no one knows what we're talking about, go onto our Twitter feed and
have a look at a video of the Bordeaux fan. I mean, talking of away trips, I think one fan has suggested they might take a week off, trip to Toulouse, get the win, hop over to Bordeaux, boom, back a week later. I mean, crikey, our partners would never allow us to do that. But
that is also the absurdity of this competition, is that, you've got, if you aren't in the top seed, you get an away game in the round of 16, and then you have to have another away game a week later. It doesn't make it easy for your travelling fan, does it? I don't know what the answer is. I know there's been lots of debate about the Champions Cup, the format, and when you play it, but it kind of thinks like, just put everything in the mix, just have a proper draw, like an FA Cup style draw, and it got a chance of a home game in the quarters. I suppose they'll say it's because it's a group thing to start with, and you've got to reward group winners, but it is what it is. But yeah, boys, I mean, just quick sort of second half, obviously, in that game, we did come back into it, and we had a really good second half, despite Tom Jordan getting smashed in the mouth by Pedro. And we know that because we literally got that from the horse's mouth. We saw Tom Jordan after the game, and I was angling for him to do a little audio thing for, I'm Tom Jordan and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate. And the poor guy was like, I'm really sorry, I've got like 4 stitches in my mouth. I don't think I can do you justice, he said. What a nice guy. He said, I'd rather do that when I'm like, my mouth is fully fit. I mean, and this is like an international quality player, like didn't want to do a bad job for Bears Beyond the Gate. But yeah, I mean, Genji, what could have been? I mean, we thought we'd scored, didn't we, under the posts quite early on. We'd been pumping their line. Bit embarrassing. It's horrible when you think you scored, you're up in your seat, sort of cheering, and then you realise you went a bit too early. We've all had that feeling before, boys, haven't we? But yeah. So I don't know, when Genji's one dropped over the line, what did you think, Lee? Did you think that might have been the turning point, the chance that we'd blown?
Yeah, and again, initially, like we'd all thought it was over, and he'd scored it, but I don't know. I didn't. I actually felt there'd be another chance to get back into it, because at that moment in time, we were actually all
We were
guns
knocking on the
blazing,
door.
weren't we?
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely, we were knocking on the door, and I guess that's kind of like a little bit of the frustration in a way, is that you know that was a game we really could have won. And I know we should say we had a chat with Bats, didn't we, after the game, and he was so disappointed. But I love the fact, and we had to say to him, look, we're so proud of the performance, because to get that close is really something. And who knows, like if we could upset the apple cart and beat Toulouse, I mean, we would have learned from that Bordeaux, that experience. And I know we're playing away from home, but I just feel that that's a game that could be a revenge mission game. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it'd be huge.
Yeah, I
It'd be
reckon.
huge. I was just looking at the notes on the South Canal. So obviously we had thought maybe we'd blown it, but then of course we did get that try in the second half, and it was who'd been a bit quiet, probably because he'd been having to deal with being smashed by their defence, and it was our boy Bernard Yancey van Rensburg, but he scored that try, and the strength that he showed to get over the line. He had about 5 Bordeaux guys hanging off him, and he was like, they were ripping his shirt off, weren't they? And they were yanking his mullet, and he still managed to get the ball down. I mean, and that's the sort of player Bristol need. Like, you might be quiet for a bit, but he's got stardust and he'll do something. And on that note, it also just reminded me saying it. Do you remember that one where Keller Revovo charged it down and then tried to kick it through? And then tripped over his own.
Then tripped over, didn't he?
And it reminded me, I
bless
told you
him.
this before, I about that in fantasy football. I've said this millions of times, where they had that feature called Pele is shit. And they just had loads of video of Pele like skying the ball over the bar or slicing it. I felt a little bit for Revovo there. It's like I thought he was definitely in, but there's always on your highlights reel. There's always one you don't want to put on your highlights reel as well, isn't there? But yeah, and
Very
also that
true.
reminded me that even Biel Barry had that kick through in the first half, didn't he? And he looked like he was going to score, and he like ended up just smashing it straight into the hoardings at the back, and that got one of the best cheers of the day. So even he's human, that boy.
Well, slightly.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Annoyingly, he didn't trip up enough, did he? I mean, he was just on fire, wasn't he?
I mean, it was.
So
it was
fast.
disappointing that we were 2015 and Jalabert had missed that penalty, and I thought, we've got a losing bonus point. In the end, it wouldn't have mattered, would it? But
No.
it didn't. I didn't really. That last try didn't really count. I didn't really count that because I didn't think it was fair. But I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to mention from the game? Any performances, lads, or any things? I've got one thing I've got in my mind, but I'll give you boys a chance of anything that comes to mind that you want to mention before we move on.
I mean, I felt Genji again was quality. I mean, we should say he's got the Gallagher Premiership Player of the Month, didn't he, for December? So that was, congratulations to Genji. I thought he was great. Then again, I thought the forwards collectively were really good. One thing I would say, I don't know if Miles is going to mention this, so I do apologise in advance, but I did feel we were a better team when Marmion came on again.
He's on fire, isn't he? He's on form.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Rands, but Marmion he's just at the top of his game at the moment.
But what a problem to have. It's like Rands is not going to rest on his laurels, is he? He's going to work harder and harder. And I think if we can have both of them in absolute tip-top form when we come back after the Six Nations, it's got to be good for us. It's got to be good. Now, the thing I was going to mention, Miles, is you got very excited when Dance Cam came up and it was the Macarena. It reminded you of your wedding, didn't it?
Well, I'm more concerned that Pete said he admitted he knew all the
knew all the
moves to it,
moves.
didn't he, Lee?
But that's a really good dance cam because it's actually a really good one. It's quite a good one to do.
He's doing it now.
I know.
Oh,
Oh, Macarena.
dear.
Oh, it's brilliant. I actually endorse the Macarena cam.
We should apologise to any of the listeners that were around in Dolmany 30 who actually witnessed that firsthand with their own eyes that Pete was doing the Macarena.
I know Mark was loving it.
Sorry for that.
Yeah,
he could barely contain himself.
People
But anyway,
about Simba cam. We don't want Pete Macarena cam, and that'll be the end of the cam.
Maybe that marks the end of this discussion. It's degenerating into
You're right,
shambolic discussion. So anyway, it was, and I think actually we should just mention the fans, like we did mention it, but what a great set of away fans, got themselves organised, got a block of seats, singing all the way through the game. It's a bit like I've been to see football in Italy. It was a bit like that, conductors banging the drum, singing. Then we had a massive sing-song, as we know, and went viral on Twitter. So, I'd just love us to get to Bordeaux just for that experience again. But boys, thick and fast. There's no resting, is it? Those boys are going to be straight in Harry Thacker's saunas in Lee Woods or wherever they got that, him and Woolmore, because they're going to have to recover well quick for the weekend. We've got a Saturday game, so it's a quick turnaround. And it's not as if we're going somewhere where there's any shrinking violets, are there, Miles? So it's your sort of second home territory, Exeter. I don't know about you, but I'm a bit... I think we're playing well and we've got a great sort of momentum going despite the victory. But, this is going to be a really tough game on Saturday, isn't it, Miles?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that we've been the team on form, but, they're currently sat above us in the Premiership table, and even more so they've been on form. Am I right? They sort of, they thumped Cardiff 31-0, who are no mean feat, are they? They've been playing well in the European Cup, so I didn't really see that result coming. That is going to be a flipping tough trip down the M5. You're right, the boys need to pull their socks up, dispel any talk of any defeat last Saturday, and get on with the job. And basically, we need to go down there and just do one on Chiefs. But, it will be a very tough game. They're playing very well at the moment, their forwards and backs. Hopefully the weather's a bit drier, but if, it's winnable, but this is going to be a flipping tough assignment.
Lee, do you see any changes to the 23? We don't know about injuries, but let's assume no injuries. Any changes in the 23 to Chiefs at all?
Maybe not with the 23. I mean, I think we may see a couple of changes in the 15. And I think probably Lehner might come in at some point. But I think the 23 would be. I mean, Gabs is back now, isn't he? He's probably back.
He was warming up he had the bib on. I mean, would they risk him, or would they just say, let's give him proper recovery over the Six Nations? But then he could do with some game time, couldn't he? So
he's got 6 Prem Cup games.
He's got the Prem Cup games. I wonder whether they might ease him into Prem Cup. We got Noah Heward. We've got Ravovo, we've got Rich Lane, we've got Lewis Rees-Zammit. Have we got enough just for this weekend? Would it, rather than risk Ibitoy kind of coming in cold? We don't know. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. The only other one I would wonder about is Tom Jordan was slight doubt, but we did ask him, didn't we? Is that going to be all right for Saturday? And he seemed to think, even though he had 4 stitches, he said, in his the inside of his lip, the most painful place on earth, he seemed to be confident that he'd be all right for Saturday because we do need him. We need we need to control that game.
Tough guys. These are tough guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that will stop him. No. Well, actually, one thing I will say though, Miles is saying about the weather forecast. The rain is meant to be here pretty much for the next week again.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get a dry game, Miles, somehow, unfortunately.
Okay. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, do you think we'll actually look at what Jalibert did? I mean, it would not be a bad thing to kind of analyse his game on Sunday and maybe kind of use some of Bordeaux's game plan a little bit on Exeter, because Exeter at home, they're going to come at us, aren't they? I reckon Exeter.
Yeah,
Dave Walder, as we know, Dave, ex-backs coach, he's got their backline purring, and they're not going to, I think they're going to come at us. It's almost like it might be, when we've got a bit adapt to that and maybe play a little bit of a Bordeaux style game, just like be solid in defence and hunt for those kind of turnovers and hunt for the transitions, and don't try and overdo it, and kick to the corners, put them under pressure, and maybe try and play kind of Bordeaux-like against Exeter. I don't know what you think, Lee.
Well, we've shown that we have got the game to mix it this season, haven't we? On numerous occasions we've done that. So I do agree. I think Jordan playing is probably vital to that. But I think that Chiefs. I mean, they're having a hell of a season. They're a class side. They're back to, almost back to their best again, aren't they? And it's going to be a great test. But what better test to come back in, bounce back from the Bordeaux defeat?
There's going to be some great matchups. We've got scrum half. We've got Varney, who's a great scrum half, who's playing well for them against Marmion. We've got Skinner, who's got pelters last season for not being that good, but is actually playing really well. You've got Fisselau against sort of Fitzharding and Roots against Fitzharding. You've got Daffyd Jenkins, he's against Bats or whatever. You've got Henry Slade playing well in the, Jimmy Williams and Henry Slade going to fancy going head to head. And of course you got Feo Aboso and Brown Bampo against our wingers. There's a lot of individual battles. My one other thing I would say is Lewis Rees-Zammit. Would we continue to play him at fullback, do you think? Or would we maybe mix up the back three a little bit? Thoughts on that?
But Bordeaux pumped the pressure on him. In fact, the whole back line, didn't you? And the game before, Rich Lane played a bit of a blinder. It might not be a bad shout against the likes of Chiefs. It probably won't happen. Drop Laner back in and maybe Rees-Zammit out.
There was a little hint that there was. I read it somewhere, and I haven't really watched the game back. That maybe there was a hint of there was a little bit too much space in places that maybe he should have cut down a little bit, and maybe Laner being a bit more of a, he's been a fullback in the Championship, knows that we might be a bit more pragmatic with Laner, and maybe stick Rees-Zammit on the wing to go up against Feo Aboso or something like that to kind of rev it up, and maybe Heward gets on the bench for a little rest to come on in the second half. So maybe that's my only controversial selection thing is Laner comes in at fullback, Rees-Zammit moves to the wing, maybe Heward goes to the bench, but ready to come on at some point. Lee?
Guys, just as an aside, because I know we haven't got a lot of time left, but I didn't want this to go past. But we should be telling listeners as well that it's young Arthur Cleaver's funeral on Friday.
Yeah.
It's 3 o'clock at Canford Cemetery. And maybe Pete, if you can post that out again, just because we got some information underneath which Andrew is put out. So, and
also add that it's 5 o'clock in the sports bar, isn't it, as a kind of celebration at Ashton Gate?
That's right. Yeah, and they've said that Andrew said that you can wear club colours as well. So. Yeah.
So 3 o'clock, and if you can't meet, 5 o'clock after at Camphor at the sports bar. But we'll tweet that out. Well, look, boys, That's a great shout, Lee. It just reminds us, that whilst it's fantastic, all this sort of sport, it is just sport, isn't it? And there are things in life that, are really important to remember and to mark. I think we'll do that. I think that's enough. It's a quick one. I think we've done justice to the weekend. We've done justice to the game to come. It's going to be tough, but we want to be that sort of team that rises to tough challenges, and hopefully if we can get at least 4 points on Saturday, that's going to put us in great stead for the run in. Lee, you got one more thing to say before we finish off?
One last thing, and it's just I just wanted to put this across to our listeners. Joe Joyce has joined Gloucester, right?
Oh, yes.
And I would love to know what our listeners think about it. So if we can get a load of interactions on that in the usual formats, then that would be fantastic.
Because I'm pretty sure when he interviewed him, he said he would never go to Bath or Gloucester. We need to find that.
He certainly did, mate. Yeah.
Right. On that note, there's some research to be done this week on that. Everybody, I hope you've all recovered from the weekend and you're starting to look at possible plans for Easter weekend to Toulouse. Certainly happening in my household, but under the radar a little bit at the moment. Have a great week. Stay safe. And 1, 2, 3. Up the
The
Bears.
Bears.